Greeting, folks. Stefano Lorenzo right here. And as I told you early in the week, I was going to have I was going to be doing an interview with an individual, and here he is, Johnny Lee Rey. Spent 3 years on death row. So let's go ahead and begin. Johnny, real quick, how long have you been out of prison?
About a year and 3 months.
Year and 3 months. And what year were you arrested?
1990.
1990. Remember the month?
Yeah. May.
May.
Yeah,
Okay.
May.
So it's about 30 years ago. 30 years and some change.
Actually.
Or 31 years ago and some change. Yeah.
We're in. It's almost 32 years ago.
Almost 32 years ago.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. We're in 20. Yeah. 20. Thanks a lot. Basic arithmetic here. And you were. What year were you convicted?
I was convicted in 1992.
1992. And
February the 10th.
February 10th, just over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And what were you convicted of?
Capital murder.
Capital murder. And what is the ultimate punishment for capital murder?
Life or death.
Okay, so death being the ultimate. So, and what was your initial sentence?
I was given the death sentence.
Death sentence in 1992, and spent 3 years on death row.
3 years and 4 months.
3 years and 4 months on death row. Okay, take us back to 1990 and what it led up to the, to the charge of capital murder.
There was this guy that my aunt was messing around with, and he was going through a nasty divorce at the time. And actually, she was a little too young for him, man. But what happened was he hurt himself at a welding company. He ended up settling for some for a nice piece of change. And to make a long story short, they ended up getting married. He went out and bought her a brand new vehicle. He bought himself a truck. He went out and bought a trailer home, placed it in between Amarillo and Canyon, which was on the outskirts of Canyon, and furnished it, everything brand new. And then shortly after all that took place, he claimed she had been cheating on him, so he filed for a divorce. Whether she did or didn't, I don't know. After that took place, both of them started taking things out of the trailer home because she had some jewelry and he had some guns and a bunch of other stuff. He was a welder. He had welding equipment. He had compressors, for painting and stuff like that. So anyways, both of them been taking stuff out, and both of them went talking with the judge and talking about how they were both taking stuff out of the trailer home, making their complaints. And the judge subpoenaed both of them to stay away from the trailer home until the divorce was final. So one night he had been over there drinking, kicking it with my aunt. And he told me and some of my friends, say, look, man, go over there. You go over there and hit my trailer home, man. Get the guns and bring whatever you can get, the jewelry. Back then I had VCRs and stuff like that. And said, bring it all over here, man. And I'll give y'all some money for that, man. He just didn't want her to have anything. So we're like, all right, cool. And, so we started drinking, doing drugs. We went out there and we took the wrong turn on the wrong street. And we hit the wrong trailer home. he specifically told us, man, just kick the door in. I'm already having problems with the door, so don't break no windows. You don't got to break the windows or nothing. Just kick the door in. So that's what our main focus was, kick the door in. It took us a little while to get that door open, but we finally got it open. As soon as we walked in, an individual attacked us. It really startled us because we didn't know who it was. No one was supposed to be there. If this individual would have turned the light on or screamed and called the cops or made any kind of noise, we would have ran because we knew there was guns in that trailer home. But instead, man, the individual was in that trailer home. He waited on us to come in, and as soon as the door opened up, man, he attacked us. It was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. We don't know who's attacking us. All we know is that we're getting hit. So we start fighting back. And man had a flashlight in his hand. He was hitting us with a flashlight. And I remember knocking him down and kicked him a few times, and we left, Turned out it was an elderly man. He was 72 years old. When we left, he was alive. He was still breathing. He was breathing kind of funny, but he was still alive. He ended up dying. Turned out later that he had had heart problems in the prior past. We didn't know that. So when that took place, man, it kind of just, we were kids. We didn't know, we left. Next thing you know, we were getting locked up for capital murder. And I remember when I got locked up, they brought me these statements, man. There was 3 Hispanics and 3 white guys involved in my case. And these statements, man, they were bringing them. There was the white guys that were saying that my cousin and my best friend were the ones that had done everything. They didn't even say I had anything to do with it. So when that took place, I seen the statements. I told him, man, it's not true, man. What happened was an accident. None of us went there with the intent to hurt anyone. We all went there with the intent to go and get whatever we could get so we could take it back, so we could get some money from this individual that was messing around with my aunt. His name was Pete Garcia. But instead, we ended up catching a capital murder case. And when they were showing me these statements, man, I was like, man, wow, man, that don't make no sense, man. When they were interrogating, they would get mad at me because I wouldn't side with the statements that was being made by the white guys. They wanted me to say what they were saying. They wanted me to put all the blame on my cousin and my best friend. It was me that hung myself, man. It was me that told them that I had part in that. No one else told them that I took part in that. Even with that being said, later on they still came back and they offered me 10 years probation. And I was like, wow, really? So I told my lawyer, I said, hey man, what I gotta do is take this 10 years probation. He said, all you gotta do is talk to a psychologist. I was like, okay. I was familiar with a psychologist because back in '88, I got locked up as a juvenile. And I had to talk to a psychologist back then. Had that psychologist stated that I didn't qualify for what they were trying to give me, which was they were trying to send me to a boys' home in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was called Pedez's Boys Ranch, was more like a job corps. Had he stated no, he don't need to go over there. He needs to go TYC, which is the Texas Youth Center. They would have sent me to TYC. But so I was familiar with the psychologist. So when I asked my lawyer, I said, "Hey man, what I got to do to take this 10 years probation?" He said, "Man, all I got to do is talk to that psychologist." I said, "Can anything I say be used against me?" He was like, "Yeah, but you ain't got to worry about that. They're going to give you the 10 years probation. They've already said they're going to give it to you." And I was like, "Man, something's not right." I said, "Okay, I got one more question for you." He said, "What's that?" I said, "Can anything I say be used against my fall partners?" And he was like, "Look, Johnny, you need to worry about Johnny. Don't worry about your fall partners. Because when they go to court, they're not going to worry about Johnny. They're going to worry about themselves, man." And I was like, "No. What you're going to do is you're going to get a statement from me. It's going to condemn them. And then you're going to put me on trial and make me condemn them so that you can give them the death sentence. And if I refuse to condemn them, you're going to use that same statement against me to condemn me." I told him, "Nah. Tell him I don't want the probation. He ain't trying to hear it." So he got mad and walked out on me. Next day he came back. He said, "Johnny, I got another plea agreement for you." I said, "Okay, what is it?" He said, "I got a 15-year life sentence." I told him, "I ain't taking that either." He's like, "What?" I said, "No. Tell them they can forget that. I ain't trying to take no life sentence." So he got mad, stormed out again. Later that night, I was in my cell, and my door rose. They said, "Johnny, step out." So I stepped out and I looked down the hall. And there was a guard named Hanky. He said, "Hey, you got a phone call." So I was like, "Really?" So I get up there and I said, "Look out, Hanky." "Yeah, what's up?" I said, "I've been in this county almost 20 months, man. Right at 20 months. I said, I ain't never gave you no problems." He said, "Yeah, I know, man." I said, "The only time we get phone calls, man, it's either from your lawyer or somebody died in your family." He said, "We got phones in the day room." I said, "So who died?" He said, "Didn't nobody die. Your lawyer got to approve you could have this phone call." He gave me the phone. This is my grandmother. She was crying. "Mijo, por favor, llévate los 15 años." Which means, "Son, please take the 15 years. I said, "Grandma, that's not 15 years. They're not offering me 15 years. They're offering me a life sentence, which means I have to pull 15 years just to see parole. Doesn't mean I come home. It means I have to do 15 flat just to see parole." I said, "This is a capital murder case." I said, "Man, I could understand if we had went down there with the intent to hurt somebody." I said, "But most people don't understand. There is no, we didn't go down there with the intent." And back then, I really didn't understand what that meant. But over the years, I've studied a little here, I've rehabilitated myself, I've educated myself, and I learned what it means. In a first-degree murder, in a premeditated murder, capital murder, you have to show 3 things without a shadow of a doubt. You have to show that you intentionally, you deliberately, and you knowingly committed the crime. In other words, if you see a roach walking down your kitchen, or a roach walking down in your restroom area, or down the hall somewhere, and you're like, "Man, I'm tired of these roaches, man." You knowingly, intentionally, and you just deliberately walked over there. And you step over there and you go over there and you just thought it out, you just planned it, and then you executed what you planned out. That is That's what capital murder is. It's a premeditated murder because you thought it, you planned it, and then you executed your plan. We didn't do that. What happened in my case was an accident. I'm not saying we should have been set free. Yeah, we should have been punished. But I guarantee if it would have been their kids, they wouldn't have sent them away for the rest of their lives. Because what happened in my case was an accident. See, there's 3 Hispanics and 3 white dudes involved in my case. The 3 Hispanics ended up with life sentences when it was all said and done. And the 3 whites, one of them ended up with 10 years probation. The other 2, they dismissed the charges. And I've got paperwork here that will show just exactly what was said. If you go to the Amarillo Globe News and you look it up on December the 1st of 1998, and you look at the newspaper, you'll see where it states in 1, 2, 3, 4, in the 5th paragraph, we're not going to oppose the decision, Randall County Criminal District Attorney James Farron said. The evidence indicates that the 2 individuals never left the vehicle. They dropped charges on them. The charges stem from a burglary gone bad, Farron said, which is the new district attorney in my case. In a prior interview, the group plotted to break into a home with the owner's consent and remove designated property. He said then the owner planned to file an insurance claim, which I don't understand. I didn't know anything about that. Farron added. Trouble is, the teens entered the wrong home and surprised Mr. Merriman Sr., Farron has said. The evidence indicates that Latham and Millimore waited in the car the whole time. If they knew this, and they knew it was an accident, why did they charge us with capital murder? They would have done that to their kids. Why did they do it to us? You know that most of my family has passed away throughout my years of incarceration. So when I got out, I have very few family members left, man. And so they convicted me based on a statement from the pathologist stating that it was a blow to the head. It stopped his heart from beating. And I didn't understand that. But while I was on death row, a racketeering lawsuit was filed. When I went to court, right before I went to pick in my void iron, let me go back a little bit. I remember my lawyer getting up just before we pick a void iron. So everything I'm telling you, if you go look it up, you can find it. Just like I just gave you this newspaper clipping, you can look it up, you can find it, you can find this too. In my transcripts, right before I picked my void iron, my lawyer got up and he said, Your Honor, if possible, I'd like to set something straight for the record before we get started, if it's okay with you. And the judge that was presiding over my case, which was Patrick Purtle, stated that it was okay. So he got up and he stated, on such and such date, I offered Johnny Lee Rey 10 years probation. Is that or is that not correct? And I said, yeah, that's correct. He said, and he turned that down. Is that or is that not right? And I said, yeah, that's right. I said, okay, I'd just like to let it be known for the record that I did try to offer him 10 years probation and he turned it down. Afterwards, he stated, I then came back and offered him a 15-year life sentence. And he turned that down too. Is that or is that not correct? I said, yeah, that's right. Okay. Then I got it approved where he could have a phone call with his grandmother so that she could try to talk him into taking a 15-year life sentence. And not only did he turn it down, but he also told me that if I ever went to her again, that he would try to fire me because she was at the age where I could have given her a stroke or a heart attack. And that I didn't work for her, I worked for him. Is that or is that not correct? And I said, yeah, that's right. Well, I'd just like to let it be known for the record that I did try to get him 10 years probation and a 15-year life sentence.
Explain what that is real quick, a 15-year life
A
sentence.
15-year life sentence means I fell underneath the 1/4 law, 1/4. And with that being said, you have to do 15 years just to see parole. It doesn't mean you make parole, it just means you come up for parole. So that is what that was a law that I fell up under. So when I went to court, I remember my lawyer, after the district attorney called all his witnesses, he told me, he said, look, man, it would be in your best interest if you didn't call no witnesses on your behalf. Because if you do, Dr. Death's going to come in and speak on behalf of the state. And he's going to tell them to execute you. You have a better chance if you don't call no witnesses. Because if you do, then they're going to expose all the stuff that was going on with your family.
Explain who Dr. Death is.
Dr. Death is the one that, the doctor that turns around and pretty much...
Psychiatrist?
He's like a psychiatrist, but he doesn't even have to talk to you. He can just go in the courtroom and say, you know what, man? Yeah, I can feel the presence, and that he's a threat to society, and he deserves to die, and they're going to do that. You know, they're going to go with his word. That's exactly what my lawyer told me. Now, whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. I just listened to my lawyer. So I didn't call no witnesses on my behalf, because at the same time, man, I had a rough childhood coming up. As far as both of my older brother and my younger brother, my two biological brothers. When I got locked up, both of them had been adopted by two white families, good-hearted white families at that. And I, on the other hand, was running the streets. And at one time, another white family tried to adopt me, but it didn't work out. So I was upset. That's why I didn't care too much about life in general when all this was going around. But even with that being said, man, none of us went with the intent to hurt anyone, and all of us regret that the man lost his life. There's nothing we can do to bring him back. And one thing I learned is that it don't matter how old you are, man. Sometimes we make mistakes, man. And sometimes them mistakes, man, it don't take but a fraction of a second, man, to turn around and make that mistake. Sometimes that fraction take you a lifetime trying to correct it, man. So now, one of the main things that I live by is that if I can't control what I'm doing, I don't want no part of it, man. So everything I do right now, man, I try to do with the conscience of knowing what I'm doing. I don't care for drugs. I don't care for the clubs. I've never been married. I don't have a wife. I've never lived with a woman. There's a lot of things that I'm still dealing with in life out here right now. Do I want a woman? Yes. Do I want to settle down? Yes. But how can I sit here and settle down with a female when I don't even know what I want from a female? I was a kid when I got locked up. I'm a grown man now, man. Society, man, they don't know what's going on behind them walls. I know more about prison than I do my own family, man. And I don't say that to boast. I say that in a very humble and a very embarrassing way, man. But with that being said, while I was on death row, a sergeant came forward.
Was it a police sergeant?
Yeah, a police sergeant that went to pick up the pathologist in my case.
And who was the pathologist?
The pathologist's name was Ralph Erdman. And Ralph Rodney Erdman at that. And what took place was William Hubbard was the sergeant that was supposed to go pick up the pathologist in my case to testify in my case. And what took place was when he went to go pick him up on the way back, he was driving. He stopped at a red light. The pathologist was in Lubbock, Texas, which my case was taking place in Canyon. So it's about an hour and a half, 2 hour drive back to Canyon. And while he's driving, he stops at a red light and he says, "Hey, man, are them x-ray slides of the deceased in the Johnny Rey case? He's like, yeah. He says, okay. He keeps looking at the x-ray slides out of curiosity. Takes off driving again. He says, can I ask you a question? He stops at another red light and says, yeah. He said, how come them x-ray slides say 1991? When Johnny's case took place in 1990. He said, oh, I accidentally mislabeled them. You want to relabel them for me? He says, no. I'm not qualified to do that. That's why they paid you. So he turned around and he wrote 1990 on them, and he went into court. And that's what they used to convict me with. The sergeant went in the courtroom and told the district attorney what happened in the car. And the district attorney told him, shh, don't say nothing. They used that evidence and they got the death sentence. They convicted me. While I was on death row, that same sergeant went to go talk to the lawyers that was defending my best friend, Douglas Nathan Palmer. He had two lawyers that were coming in from Atlanta, Georgia, and New York, Millard Farmer and Stephen Loesch, which were with the NAACP. And they said, man, when they knocked on the door, these lawyers answered the door and they said, what's up? And they said, he said, I got some things I'd like to tell y'all about the Johnny Rey case. He said, oh, come on in. You know, we can use everything we can get on that case. We need it. So, all right. So he tells them everything that happened in the car, and they were like, man, are you serious? And the man said, look, man, I've been a sergeant. I've been with the police force for many years. He said, but I'm a godly man before I'm anything. I'm a Christian. And my faith comes before my job. I put that I put my hand on the Bible on that. So they said, okay, come on in. So they went over there questioning the pathologist, and the pathologist ran them off, didn't want to answer their questions. So after that took place, they left, and pathologist called the district attorney and told him what was going on. And the district attorney told him, hey, you didn't tell him that, right? He said, no, don't worry about it, I got that. So the district attorney called the lawyers and told them, hey, if you know what's best for you, you'll leave that pathologist alone. If not, I'm going to indict you for tampering with state evidence pertaining to a capital murder case. And they were like, you do what you got to do, man. And we're going to do what we got to do. They filed a racketeering lawsuit against the pathologist in my case, which was Ralph Erdman, and against the district attorney, which was Randall Sherrod. And I don't know why, but Travis Ware was involved with it, which was a district attorney out of Lubbock, Texas. John L. Davis, which was the assistant district attorney in my case. Ralph Rodney Erdman, which was the pathologist in my case. I don't know who these others were. Thomas Woodson Rowan Jr., Wayne Randolph, William Smith, Thomas Porter, B.J. White, Kevin Rush, Frank Briscoe, and David Gleason. These were all the defendants. And the plaintiffs were Millard Farmer, William Hubbard, and Patrick Kelly. This lawsuit took place in January the 29th of 1993 while I was sitting on death row. So when that took place, they went into the federal court, and there was a federal judge up there. Her name was Mary Lou Robinson. And she was upset because she didn't like seeing the state fight the state. So she told him, you better pray these allegations are correct, because if they're not, I'm going to let the district attorney have his way with his indictment. And then she told the district attorney, and you better pray they're not correct, because if they are, I'm going to have my way with y'all. So they said, man, do you have anybody that can evaluate the x-ray slides in the Johnny Rey case? They made him turn the x-ray slides over. And they said, yeah, we got two other pathologists. Leroy Riddick was one of them, and Sparks Vesey. Leroy Sparks Vesey was the other one. I said, okay. So they went and they did their analysis. They came back to court. And the judge said, so what was the analysis? And they said, Your Honor, these x-ray slides don't belong to the deceased in the Johnny Ray case. We don't know who they belong to. She got so mad. She said, before I make a judgment on this, I want a whole nother autopsy done of the deceased in the Johnny Ray case. So 3 years after the man had been buried, they dug him out of his grave and did a second autopsy of the deceased.
What was the initial lawsuit? I mean, excuse me, what was the initial assessment by Ralph Erdman?
They said it was a cerebral edema, which was a blow to the head that stopped the heart from beating. And supposedly he had x-ray slides of the head that was going to show the cause, that would have shown what caused the heart to stop beating. But he didn't. He had x-ray slides of another deceased. So 3 years after the man had been buried, they brought him out of his grave and did a second autopsy on him. After they did the second autopsy, they came forward and they went back to the courtroom, and the judge said, so what was your analysis on the second autopsy? And they said, Your Honor, we have a few questions we'd like to ask the pathologist that did the first autopsy in your presence for the court, for the record. And she says, I'm okay with that. It's okay. So they put him on stand. They asked him. So in order in the Johnny Ray case, you gave weights for the heart and for the brain. Is that or is that not correct? He said, yeah, that's correct. It's okay. So how would you dissect the heart from the chest? And he said, well, you got to cut a Y incision into the chest. Open it up, pull the heart out, clip the stem. So both pathologists said, you're absolutely right, Herman. So how would you dissect the brain out from the skull? He said, you got to cut an incision from the back of the head and open it, pull the brain out, clip the stem. I said, you're right. I said, Your Honor, we have a videotape here where we did the second autopsy. And when we opened up his shirt to do an autopsy from his chest, there was never even a Y incision cut into his chest. So if there wasn't a Y incision cut into his chest, that means you never pulled the heart out. How did you get the weight for the heart? And there was never an incision cut into the back of the skull, the back of the neck. So how did you get the brain out and weigh it? You gave weights in the Johnny Ray trial. He broke down. He said, man, I just told the district attorney what he wanted to hear so he could get his conviction. Now, with that being said, I'm sitting on death row. None of this has been brought to my attention. I don't know what's going on. The racketeering lawsuit, they ended up winning $300,000, a little over $300,000. And none of this was brought to my attention. Instead, man, when my case was reversed and remanded for a new trial back in March the 15th of 1995, and when my case was reversed and remanded for a new trial, it was reversed because my lawyer had objected, stating that he wanted the funds to hire his own medical expert, and because they refused to give me my own medical funds, the funds to hire my own medical expert. Well, now, and because they reversed it on that, now my case law it went into effect. So anytime an individual is facing a murder case, as much as I hate to say it, a child molester, a sex offender, a rapist, any of them individuals that do stupid things like that, man. If they turn around and they request for their own medical expert and the state refuses to give it to them, the funds to hire their own medical expert, my case is the one that they use to go and force the state to give them the funds so they can hire their own medical expert. That's how strong my case is. I can walk into any courtroom in the United States and any criminal lawyer will be familiar with my case. But with that being said, none of that was told to me when my case was reversed. Instead, in '95, my case was reversed for a new trial, and I came back off of death row. And they came and got me on June the 1st of 1995. And when I came back, they told me that they were offering me a life sentence. And right as I was fixing to say no, they said, hold up, just listen to us. I said, okay, I'm listening. They said, if you take a life sentence, we'll offer your best friend a life sentence. If not, we're not going to give him nothing. We're going to give him the death sentence. We're going to get you too. I said, so what you're telling me is I got my best friend's life in my hands. They said, no, we're not saying that. We're just saying that if you accept the life sentence, we'll give him a life sentence. If not, we ain't going to give neither one of you nothing. We'll give you both. We'll go after both of you. I've been on death row 3 years and 4 months. I watched right at 59 individuals get executed. I knew they weren't playing. So I said, man, can I talk to my fall partner? In the back of my mind, when I tell them this, I'm thinking, man, we're supposed to be going to trial separate. I went to court first. My cousin went next. They gave him a life sentence. It was supposed to have been my fall partner next, but instead they reversed my case and brought me back. And now they're telling me that if I don't take a life sentence, they're not going to give him nothing. They're going to give him the death sentence. So I tell them, man, can I talk to him? So they put us both in a detox tank. And I told them, look, man, they said, but the only way they're going to offer you something is if I accept this life sentence, man. And if I don't accept this life sentence, man, they're not going to give you nothing. So I want to know, are you going to sign? Because if you're not going to sign, I'm not taking nothing, man. They said, man, I'll sign for your life. I said, okay. So I went back in and I signed for a life sentence. Now, keep in mind, I came back on June the 1st of 1995. On June the 2nd, around 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, I signed for that life sentence, and so did my fall partner, Douglas Nathan Palmer. And by 5 p.m., June the 2nd, we were back in diagnostics. They got us out of there. And I didn't understand why they got us out of there so fast. But the reason they got us out of there is because they didn't want us having no kind of media attention. Because if the media would have found out, all kind of hell would have broke loose. They never told me about the racketeering lawsuit. Had I known then what I know now, I would have told them, you know what, man? I'll take a 20-year sentence and you're still going to give him a life sentence. Or I'll take you to court. And I'll win it all the way out because whatever was used in the first trial can't be used in the second trial. Because they got the district attorney for prosecuting misconduct in this racketeering lawsuit. And they got the pathologist for perjury and convicted him and gave him probation for perjury testimony in my case, which was never brought to my attention. Why? Now I'm going to leave it at that. But even with that being said, after I took this life sentence, man, it was Judge Patrick Purtle that turned around and overseen the agreement on this. But I have another story. And you're going to trip out because, like I said, I know more about prison than I do about life out here. And I say that, man, and I regret that, man. But with that being said, I'm going to leave it for right now, man.
Okay.